This is Alan Biermeyer from Digital Drafting Systems. I am the Customer Success Manager here, and welcome to our Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro webinar. We're very excited to have Matt Wunch here from Autodesk to help us out today. Matt, can I have you jump over to that next slide for us? All right, so just some housekeeping for everybody to keep in mind. All of the lines will be muted for the duration of the presentation. And we ask that if you have any questions throughout the presentation, you please go ahead and send those over through the chat box or the questions box. And note that this webcast will be recorded and will be sent out to you, as well as it'll be posted up on our YouTube channel and our website a little bit later today, probably. If you have any questions, concerns, anything like that, please give us a call, 305-445-6480, or send us an email to info@ddscad.com. So now, before we get started, we did have a poll question that we wanted to see what you guys would say here. So here's our poll question. Are you currently using any cloud-based storage solution? If so, which one? So please go ahead and vote. And we're going to give you guys a little, maybe 15, 20 seconds here. So just go ahead and vote for us, just to get an idea of who our audience is, what you guys are using so far. And hopefully see some opportunities with what's going to be shown today. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end the poll, and we can take a look at those results. So looks like quite a few of you are using some cloud solutions, which is great. And some of you are not, but in any case, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Matt now. Matt Wunch from Autodesk. He's a senior technical specialist, and he's going to be, you know, showing us a couple of cool things today. So Matt, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, my name is Matt Wunch. I'm a senior technical specialist with Autodesk. Relatively new to the company, started last year in the middle of the pandemic of all times. But I do have about 2.5 decades of experience as a CAD, BIM technology manager, working for multidisciplinary engineering firms, architectural firms, land surveyors, bridge engineers, you name it. I've probably dealt with them and their files in one way or another. So I do have a lot of experience with that sort of connected BIM workflow of Revit and Civil 3D and InfraWorks and Navisworks and Forma and getting everything to talk to each other. I used to be an expert elite member. That title got stripped from me as soon as I signed the papers to start working for Autodesk. I also did part-time technical support for Autodesk for about 4 years prior to that. Some of you may have had some interactions with me on directly.com. I'm also a FAA certified drone pilot and have some experience with reality capture, both terrestrial laser scans as well as aerial photogrammetry. So the obligatory safe harbor statement, I don't think there's anything that will be shown that isn't already out there in the public, but just to cover bases, throw that up there. So the agenda, we're going to be taking a look at BIM Collaborate Pro, and the main point I want to get across is try to drive home some of the or clarify some of the confusion or questions that a lot of customers have about BIM Collaborate Pro, and how does that kind of relate to the current offerings in BIM 360. So there will be some slides that are probably a little bit repetitive, but just looking at things a little bit differently, but still the same information. Speaking of slides, I apologize up front for the number of slides. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of slides, so some of these we're probably gonna zip through pretty quickly, especially when it comes down towards the capabilities. Because really, I just want to get into that live demo. I want to show you all the actual product live in action. I feel it's more impactful than jumping through slides and reading a lot of text and maybe watching some canned videos. So we will be jumping through some of those slides pretty quickly. That being said, before we really dive into this, got to throw out some of these acronyms here. You may have heard ABC or ABC Pro when people are talking about BIM Collaborate and BIM Collaborate Pro, or ACC when it comes to the new Autodesk Construction Cloud. So just trying to get everybody on the same page when it comes to acronyms and what do all these different terms mean. Now that being said, there are currently there are two platforms for cloud solutions. There's what we have, what you may have already have used or experienced as BIM 360, also known as Next Gen. And now there's that new Autodesk Construction Cloud, sometimes referred to as the Unified Platform. And the reason it's called Unified Platform is it's taking that BIM 360 platform and elevating it. So keeping all of that data within the same platform, from pre-design through pre-con construction, all the way through operation. Currently with the BIM 360 side, the construction, the build portion is rather separate, right? So with the acquisition of PlanGrid, that has now been rolled into the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So really making it that one-stop shop for all of your files, all of your information, all of your issues, RFIs, all that tracking within a single unified platform. So BIM Collaborate Pro, right? Anytime, anywhere, AEC collaboration. This is where I want to start to get into some of those differences and how they translate from the BIM 360 design and BIM 360 coordinate through, how that translates to Collaborate Pro. So BIM Collaborate Pro, you can kind of think of it as the current BIM 360 design. So you've got your design collaboration, your work sharing, document management, project insights, all of that information from that module, plus BIM 360 coordinate. So you've got your collaboration and your model coordination, and it's all built on the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So I'm just going to build out this slide here. So this is a similar way of trying to look at some of this information and try to clarify the differences between Collaborate Pro. So if we take a look at this on the bottom, we have Autodesk Docs. So this is where all of your files are going to reside, similar to BIM 360 right now. All those files, stored in the cloud. You're being able to do your markups, your issues, comments, activity tracking, things of that nature. The next layer up is that BIM Collaborate. So we've got the model coordination, the collaboration, clash detection portion of it. On top of that is BIM Collaborate Pro. So that's where you get into the co-authoring of your BIM files, your civil 3D models, your plant 3D files, all stored in that unified platform. Again, another way of looking at this information, I remember when we first rolled this out, there was a lot of confusion, a lot of questions rolling around, like what exactly is all this stuff? So like I just said, BIM Collaborate, Docs, design collaboration, model coordination. BIM Collaborate Pro is your work sharing and your design file collaboration. So hopefully that clears up some of the questions that some of you may have in terms of what exactly is BIM Collaborate Pro, and how does that kind of relate to the BIM 360 Next Gen platform. So I'm going to start just kind of blowing through some of these slides because, like I said, I really want to get into the product and show you all live exactly what all this is. So we've kind of talked about some of this stuff already, talking about the collaboration of the civil 3D, the plant 3D, all in that unified platform, creating markups, comments, review your file or project insights, clash detection, model coordination. But why, right? So this is for designers who need that multi-product access. So being able to co-author all these files and do that collaboration, that project coordination. Again, so this is where we're just going to like blow through the last couple slides here. Just kind of repeating some of the stuff that we've already seen. The Revit Worksharing, the Civil 3D, Plant 3D. The big thing here is the automatic file locking. With versions prior to AutoCAD 22, you had to install a separate add-in for file locking. That is now automatic with the AutoCAD 22 vanilla and verticals as well. And being able to assign permission, so based on role, company, username, giving people the access to the folders and the files that they need to see, and really nothing else, right? So limiting project access to the people that really just need those files. Take a look at collaboration, how we can share our files with other team members, other collaborators on our projects, and how we can track those as well. Tracking issues, adding comments, markups, sending transmittals. I'm going to dig into all of this in just a moment here, and really give you an understanding of what is capable with the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Clash detection. Personally, this is one of my favorites because it's automatic. Simply upload your files or copy your files to a specified folder, and the power of the cloud does all the hard work for you. Basically just sit back and wait for it to finish, and you get a nice little heat map of where the majority of the clashes are, and you can start to filter through and assign clashes as issues to the responsible parties. And with that, let's just jump right into the demo here. Now, before we really dig into Autodesk Construction Cloud, I wanted to do this little side-by-side comparison because I think it's important to kind of highlight some of the differences between the next-gen platform that we see on the left here and the Autodesk Construction Cloud, which is on the right. So right off the bat, you can see next-gen has this blue bar across the top, whereas Autodesk Construction Cloud does not. So there's a clear indication as to which side you're on, whether it's next-gen or ACC, as well as the URL. The URL is another indication as to which side you're on. So BIM 360 next-gen has B360 as part of the URL. Autodesk Construction Cloud starts off with ACC. And lastly is the interface. It looks a little bit different. BIM 360 has sort of a tab across the top here with different options you can select on, as well as this big dialogue of buttons here. Whereas in ACC, that's really kind of been simplified on the left-hand side here. So kind of giving you a little bit more real estate to work with. You can also collapse this for even more real estate when working in ACC. So just a couple of the few visual differences, just to kind of level set as to which side you're on, whether it's the BIM 360 Next Gen or the Autodesk Construction Cloud. Speaking of BIM 360 Next Gen, before we really get into the ACC side, BIM 360 is not going away anytime soon. So you don't have to worry about starting a project on BIM 360, and you don't have to worry about that end of life for the platform. It's not going away anytime soon. It's actually still being developed as in tandem with Autodesk Construction Cloud. So if you were to start a project on BIM 360, there's nothing to worry about in terms of the end of life of the platform. Okay, now Autodesk Construction Cloud, right? So we talked about permissions. So that's kind of starting at the beginning, giving access to the team members who only need to see certain files or certain folders. And we can do that based on the roles. So if I were to let's add Art Vandelay to our project here. And what kind of permission level do we want to give him? We can just have them view files, or all the way up to full admin control, being able to create folders, assign other users, etc. So a lot of permissions here from the get-go. The folder structure, this can be set up any way you like. So if you have a folder structure that works for you on your current LAN, that can absolutely be replicated in the Autodesk Construction Cloud. So sort of lessening the learning curve from going from your local area network to a cloud-based project structure. One thing I want to point out is there's no limit in terms of files within Construction Cloud, right? So you've got unlimited storage. So if you let's take a look at point clouds, for example. If you ever have worked with point clouds, you know that these things can be massive in size. So talking gigs worth of data. Store all that in your Autodesk Construction Cloud project. Relieve that strain from your IT department of having to either upgrade servers, or even worse, store some of this data on external hard drives, and it ends up getting passed around the office from one user to another, and ultimately gets locked in a file cabinet because someone goes on vacation. All of that overhead and worry is removed with the Construction Cloud having that unlimited storage. So permissions, great way of controlling who has access to what. I mentioned roles and companies. So if we have certain roles set up, such as BIM manager, for example. So everyone who is a member of the team who has this role of BIM manager assigned to them, that group of individuals will then have access to, in this case, this documents folder and all of the subfolders as well. So this also works with companies as well. So similarly, adding members to the project and saying, okay, check off the box that they're Autodesk or they're BIM manager, or whatever role, whatever company you want them, or you want to assign to them. That's totally flexible, totally doable. My screen is not reacting here. That's why. There we go. All right, the internet has been a little wonky today. So one of the great things about the Autodesk Construction Cloud is that it's purpose built for the AEC industry, and it's design file aware. So it knows what a Revit file is, it knows what a DWG file is, it knows what a PDF file is, it knows what a DGN file is, and it will show those files appropriately. Taking a look at this A101 DWG file, for example. If I were to just click on this, brings up the viewer. So I don't need any additional software to install. I don't have to tell someone, hey, here's a file, but you need to install AutoCAD to view it. Yeah, you just send them a link to the project. As long as they have rights to it, they can click on that link. They can view the file. They can also comment and mark up that file as well. So taking a look at some basic commenting tools here. So we can create text, we can create clouds. Let's maybe just throw a cloud over here. You can change the size, change the border opacity, the fill color if you'd like. So maybe you have certain team members that work with cyan color and others that work with green. It's a great way to sort of color code who has done markups. Also, there's by default, markups are what are known as private. So if I were to close out of this, for example, and just do a refresh of the page here, we take a look at that A101 file, it's going to have a new or a darkened icon next to its file name. So that indicates I have a personal private markup that I created on here. So only I can see that markup right now. So this may be just a comment for myself to go back and double check, or maybe I need to reach out to somebody for some additional information. You can also create published markups. So published markups are markups that anyone can see. And similar to the clouds, we have some opacity color options here, the fill colors, the border colors. This can all be customized. Like I said, if you have team members that work with certain colors, it's a great way to color code those comments to see, okay, the architect made these comments, the structural engineer made these comments. Just a great way of visually knowing who made the comments at that time. Likewise, if I were to publish this, right, and then jump back out, do a refresh, we'll see that sort of crown icon now shows as solid black. So indicating that there is now a published markup. In this case, there's just the one and one personal markup. And the other thing I want to point out is, move the mouse here. So you see all these files have some sort of V and a number next to them. So this A101, for example, there are two versions of this file right now. The great thing about the cloud is that you only see the latest and greatest version, right? So I remember I mentioned there's unlimited storage. If we click on this V, we can actually see there is version 1 as well. So that file is still technically there, just sort of hidden in the background. We have the ability to make that current if, for whatever reason, we need to go back and say, hey, this design from earlier, let's go back to that. So we can do that. You can also download it. You can also copy the file. So maybe you want to put it in like a temporary holding area, for example, for the time being. You can certainly do that as well. Now, one of my favorite features is compare versions. So when I was a CAD manager, I'd often get files from outside engineers or consultants, and they'd say, here's our updated file. And that's pretty much all they would say. They wouldn't say, we've changed this, 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 and this. It was up to us to do the old XREF trick. So we take the new version and the old version, make one, say, gray, and then the other one maybe like red or green, and then do the send to back, send to front trick to see what has been changed. With the construction cloud, that's all done for you. So that same kind of process. If I were to just click on compare, gives me a little preview of my files. Any layouts that are in there, I can select those. In this case, there's just the one. I'm going to click compare, and essentially it's going to do that overlay trick. So version 2 is red, version 1 is blue. We can toggle them off to see them individually, toggle them both on. It's a great way to see what has been changed, where it's been changed. Because like I said, most of the time you're just going to get a file that says, hey, we made some changes, and that's it. It's up to you to figure out where's that utility closet now, or where did that site, that manhole on the site move to. Great way to quickly get an idea of what has changed. You can also do a side-by-side slider comparison. So you see we got this bar in the middle here. Now if we slide this, just another way of looking at the information. Actually down here is a little bit more apparent. So this area right here, as we slide this across, easy way of seeing what has been changed. And again, all these versions, whether it's DWGs, DGNs, like I mentioned before, Revit files, PDFs, all those different versions are stored in the cloud, sort of in the background. They're still there. You have access to them. It's just that, you're only seeing the latest and greatest version. Like I said before, the construction cloud is design file aware. So I've got a DGN file open. So I don't need MicroStation installed. I can view pretty much any file format. There's upwards of 50 plus different file formats that we can view. So talking about your design files, your Microsoft Word, Excel, mentioned PDFs, all these different file formats, easily visible, editable in the cloud. Jumping back to my A101 file. So we know that this area down here shifted, right? Because we saw that in the comparison. Now, what if I wanted to maybe assign this change or assign someone to take a look at this and say, take a look at this, what's going on here, what have you. You can certainly create what's called an issue. And right off the bat, we have Matt's bad design. So I do this one all the time just to demonstrate that this list of issues and categories here, this is totally customizable. So if you have certain wording or certain phrases that you prefer to use, it's totally customizable, totally can be done. But let's just go ahead with Matt's bad design, and we'll just tag this area right here. Once this spins up, we'll see a list of or a bunch of fields that we can fill out. Let's see, my internet's been chugging a little bit here. Let me close some extra windows, try to free up some bandwidth. There we go. All right, so we can see the status is currently open. All right, there's my category, my bad design. I can give it a description. I can assign it to somebody. So I'm going to assign this to Art Vandelay, and he's automatically going to get an email saying, hey, there's something for you to take a look at, and it's going to have all this information in here. Let's say I want Art to have this done by tomorrow, and we're starting today. Root cause, again, this list also can be modified as well. So maybe we'll say documentation incomplete. We can add custom fields in here as well. We can also attach photos, files, RFIs, other assets to it to give them a more complete view of the issue if there's any supporting document that needs to be added to that. All right, so Art has already received an email. He's got a link to this file, this particular issue, and it brings him right to this location. The great thing with everything that goes on in the construction cloud is that it's tracked. There's a constant audit trail of who's done what, when they've done things. So if you take a look at this activity log, for example, we can see that I've created this issue for this particular area, who I assigned it to. Then as Art goes through and makes his changes and changes the status to closed, all of that information will be reflected in that activity log. And again, that's not just for issues, that's also for all the files themselves. So if we take a look at everything that I've been messing around with on this file today, we'll see a nice list of activities here. So you can see who's viewed a file, who has downloaded it, who's locked the file, all these different audit trail type items here. It can be exported to a file, I believe a CSV file. So being able to share that information as well if needed. And like I said before, it is design file aware. So we've been taking a look at AutoCAD files, Revit files as well. Same kind of thing. So whatever's been published in that file, whatever views you've decided to publish, to save out, those views are available. You can take a look at it by different levels. It automatically just kind of slices down the model. We have that same issue tool as well. If we flip over to a plan view, No, I wanted 2D plans. We'll go with, I would say 103 overall. In the plan views, we have the markup tools that we saw earlier in the AutoCAD files, as well as the issue tracking. We could do the comparison if there's multiple versions. Again, it's design file aware, so it knows how to read these files. It knows how to view them. And the great thing about this is that if we drill into this plan view, we click on a wall. Well, it's not just a couple lines and some hatch. It's an actual wall, because it's digging into that Revit model, so we can see exactly kind of query the model in this sheet view and get more information out of it. All right, so let's jump over to design collaboration. So one of the new additions to design collaboration is the ability to add DWG files. So your Civil 3D, your Plant 3D, even your vanilla AutoCAD users can now join in with the process here of creating sort of a package of files to be shared out with other team members. So let's take a look at this from, let's say I'm the civil engineer on this job. So I want to create a package that I can share out with other team members. I can select which models I want to share. And you notice some of these have a little like link icon next to them. So that indicates that some of these have an XREF. If I click on that link, I can choose to include that XREF in my package. And when I do that, the XREF file is sort of grayed out because this inclusion here is being controlled by this toggle over here. So just something to be aware of if you're trying to uncheck something and it's not working. Just make sure you've got the toggle on or off here, depending on what you want to do. But this is a great addition, because now AutoCAD users can, like I said, they can join in being able to share out files. So I'm just going to grab a couple of others here just for haha. So we got 5 different files here that we're going to save out. So let's say this is maybe our 50% DD package or something. So we'll just call it 50% DD, and we're going to share. So it's basically kind of bundling up these drawings. Almost think of it like a zip file in a sense. So then let's say now I'm the architect, and I want to take a look at the civil files that have been shared out. So I've got, so I've got a little icon here that shows, half full icon or half full circle. If I click on that, it kind of gives me this expanded view. So it shows me that one of these packages has been consumed, the other has not, and this is the one that I just created, right? So you can see that 50% DD. So when I click on this, I can now see which files the civil engineer has shared with me. And I mentioned consume just a moment ago. So there's three different ways of linking Revit files, AutoCAD files within your cloud project. There's what's called a live link. So every time a civil engineer or your Revit modelers make a change and save that file, those changes are going to be reflected on your end automatically. So that is the live linking. So think of that as sort of how you may be doing things internally on your own land right now if you're working with other departments within your own firm. Then there's also I'm drawing a blank on it. Well, there's consumed. Let's go with consumed, because I know that one right off the bat because that's right there. So consumed is you get that package, and it's up to you to decide, do I want to use these files right now? Maybe I'm working on my progress set, And maybe I don't want to take those. Maybe I don't want to use those files right now because the civil engineer sent them at 4:55 on a Friday, and this thing's going out the door at 5 o'clock. So I don't want to use those files right now. But to kind of demonstrate what will happen, so I'm over here as the architect. I just kind of flipped over to another view in the same project, and I've got this consumed folder. So if I go back to my package here and let's say, okay, yeah, you know what? I do want to use those files. So I'm going to take those and I'm going to do what's called a consume. And essentially what's happening is those 5 files have been, think of it as extracted from a zip file and stored in this consumed folder. Let's give it another refresh here. So this is another way of controlling who has access to what. There's my 5 files, right? 236, perfect. All right, so great way of controlling, when you get those files. The other is shared, right? So every time civil engineer or architect shares out their files, they're automatically going to be pushed out to the shared folder and then specific discipline folder under that. So with the shared, you're not in control of when you see those changes. It's up to the architect or the civil engineer whenever they decide to share those files with you. That's when you'll actually see those changes updated in your files. So there's the live linking, there's shared, and there's consumed. 3 totally different ways of linking files in BIM 360 or ACC. There's no right or wrong way. It really depends on your particular workflow. The other thing I wanted to jump into was the model coordination side of things. So model coordination is kind of like that glue, that Navisworks type of workflow. But when you're in the cloud, it is entirely 100% automated. So what I have here is I've got a civil 3D drawing. I have an architectural model that has been split out into basically different slices of different levels. I have the same for a structural and an MEP file. So these are all the files that I have that I'm clashing against right now. And these were just simply dropped into a folder, also known as a coordination space. And essentially the coordination space is just a folder that you designate that says, okay, maybe I want all civil files in this particular space, or I want all structural files and, clash against those. Maybe you've got multiple structural engineers working on different parts of a model or different parts of the building, and they're all responsible for different things. You want to make sure that everything is in sync with each other, and you don't have beams going through other beams or base plates or what have you. So just a way of sort of organizing how the clashing is done. So let's just jump back over to my coordination space over here that I have set up that has that, again, it has that civil file. So we've got pipe networks, we've got surfaces, the architectural, the structural, and the MEP model. If I take a look at the clashes here, I mentioned earlier, when you do the automated clashes, it gives you this heat map of where the majority of clashes are. So again, this is all automatic. Just upload those files or copy those files to that coordination space, and the cloud does all the heavy lifting for you. So one thing I do want to point out is that these are actual physical hits. So unlike Navisworks, where you can build in sort of like a buffer around things, so maybe you want to take into consideration fireproofing on structural members, for example. you would add sort of that little buffer into the rules in Navisworks. You can't do that in the ACC. It is a physical hit of one object versus another. But I think the time savings is huge. Like you can't really put a number to that, because you just upload the files, sit back, let it process, and it gives you that entire chart there. So let's take a look at some results here and what we actually get out of this. So right now it's spinning up those two models. I think it's a conduit model, and I think the other one is a MEP view, or maybe architectural view. So we've got on the left, we have two models that we're clashing against, our primary and our secondary model. We can define or view this based on a couple different ways. So we can take a look at the objects themselves, so the individual objects. If your model is well laid out, well modeled, and you have actual system names for everything, you can see the individual systems. In this case, we've got 302 that are associated with no system, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to clash those using the system name. You also have type names, so taking a look at the individual family types within the models. Just going to jump back to object here and scroll down a ways. Let's go. This looks like a good one. 16 clashes. So we've got basic wall, and we've got a whole bunch of conduits running through that. So let's take a look. All right, so like I said, these are physical hits within your model. At this point, I can either create an issue like we saw earlier and assign it to somebody, say, hey, take a look at this. But most likely it's probably not an issue, right? They just didn't model any kind of penetrations. So I can just simply say not an issue and really just kind of clear that out. So let's say it's a valid penetration. And we'll say okay. All right, so now that has been cleared out of our list. All right, so we can take a look at this other one here, and this looks like a similar situation. We could clear that one out as well, or like I said, we could create an issue, just like we saw before. It's spinning up the dialog, and once it spins up, we'll see that same interface, all the same fields, who we can assign it to, the due date, any comments, any supporting documents, photos, RFIs, assets, what have you. That can all be included in that as well. Right, and again, we've got that same activity log, that same history tracking of who it's been assigned to, and whether or not they've actually closed it out. How are we doing on time, Alan? We going? Was it an hour?
We've got about 15 minutes left, so you're still good to go.
All right, let's grab a quick sip of water here. Let's see. So that's a lot of the basic stuff of BIM Collaborate, BIM Collaborate Pro. I do want to show you a little bit on build, and this is kind of jumping the fence, if you will, to the construction side, right? So I mentioned earlier, this is sort of that unified platform that holds all the data from pre-design all the way up to construction and operation, beyond. So if we take a look at build, for example, so build is starting to get into RFIs and assets and things of that nature. But one of the really great things about this is that those issues that I created earlier, that issue for Art Vandelay to take a look at that particular file, right? So if I were to click on this link, it's going to bring me right to that drawing, right where that issue is. And this is a similar kind of interaction that you would get in an email, right? So if someone were to assign something to you, you're going to get that email. It's going to have that link. You just click on it. It's going to bring you right to this, so you can start to really drill down into that issue. But the point being is that this information just seamlessly flows from the design side, the docs, the design collaboration, the model coordination, seamlessly flows from that right over into the construction side of things, right? So from here, you can start to create RFIs if necessary from your issues. It's totally within the realm here of the unified platform. I am kind of getting a little bit out of my wheelhouse, I will admit. This is the more the construction side. You may have heard the term ACS, the Autodesk Construction Solution. So this is more in their wheelhouse, and that's kind of where they would take over. But just really wanted to illustrate that this data just seamlessly flows from one side to the other. And unlike the previous BIM 360 next gen version, where things kind of started to break up here with in terms of getting the information from here over to PlanGrid for a lot of that sort of post-design, pre-construction type of stuff. With the new construction cloud, PlanGrid is essentially integrated with this. So a lot of that information will flow right to the PlanGrid mobile app. So you'll be able to see your files, you'll be able to see your issues out in the field and be able to react to them on whether it's your iPhone, your iPad, whatever your device is. You don't need internet connection as long as you sync the information prior to going out there. So if you're, maybe you're in a underground utility tunnel, for example, and you're just surrounded by concrete and dirt and steel, and there's no way to get a signal down there. As long as you sync that information to your device prior to going down there, you're going to have all that relevant information. As soon as you get back to the job trailer or location where you have Wi-Fi connectivity, all that information will then be synced back up to the project. Let's take a look at the insights. So briefly mentioned the project insights on some of those slides. So we're able to tap into those issues on our dashboard here. So we can get a quick view of, maybe the plumber is lagging behind in issues that have been assigned to him. Maybe my internet is just really slow right now. Let's try a refresh. Got nothing now, not even a spinning wheel. Let me close this window. I apologize for this. My connection is, I think it's calling it quits on me for the afternoon. Here we go. All right, so we've got our project information, the address, the basic stuff, the address, the weather. There's our issues. Once this populates, you'll see a little chart of some of the outstanding issues, what's due, what's overdue, different ways of taking a look at things. There are partner cards. So if you do drone flights, for example, if you can tap into Drone Deploy, I think Pix4D might be another one. You could have your project cam on here as well. There's integration for AR in Acular. Unity is another integration. So really just a one push button to go from your Revit model to that VR experience with the partnership between Autodesk and Unity. It makes it super simple, super easy to do that. But just a great way of customizing your look, your dashboard. Which brings me to a point. This overall look, what cards you have, the layout, all that stuff, that cannot be standardized. So I get this question quite a bit, like, hey, can we push this out to all of our users within the company? The answer is no, because it is customizable per user. But looking at the integrations here that we have with tons and tons of different different companies here, being able to pull in, Esri information right off the bat. So again, another integration that Autodesk has with Esri, a lot of different partner cards here that can be pulled in. Power BI, a lot of users use that. They'll whether they're querying their models or just really just slicing apart their data and looking at it in different ways. You have the power to do that. And again, this is all customizable. Simply drag and drop and reorganize however you want to look at this information. It's totally up to you. I'm just gonna save. So that pretty much brings me to the end. Let me actually just fire up. Wouldn't be a customer facing demo if it weren't for some of the quotes that we have from customers. So, a lot of customers seeing huge productivity gains, whether it's 6 weeks down to 24 hours, or horizontal, taking a look at the horizontal construction, right? So keeping in mind that the DWG files, the Plant 3D, the Civil 3D, they now have really now just have a seat at the table that with the Revit folks, it was really lacking in the past, especially when it comes to being able to package up those DWGs and share them out. Really just bringing everything together now for that overall holistic view of your project site. All right. Seeing productivity increases of up to 25% on cloud-based projects due to load and syncing times alone. So I didn't touch on this, but when it comes to Revit, for example, when you sync, you're just uploading those little bits of data that have changed. You're not syncing the entire model back and forth. So huge productivity gains there with regards to decreased sync times. Some resources for Revit collaboration, forums, blog posts, the BIM 360 security information. I've got a similar slide for Civil 3D and Plant 3D. And I don't know if you guys mentioned it. I don't remember if you mentioned, but we should be able to share this out. I don't think that there's anything in this slide deck that isn't customer facing. I may need to just double check, make sure there's no hidden slides, but I should be able to share this out with the folks at DDS CAD, and if they can get it out to you guys, that'd be awesome. That way you do have access to all these hyperlinks here to see kind of what's behind the scenes with some of this stuff. So with that, I guess we open it up for questions. Hopefully there's some questions.
All right. So as we go ahead and ask these questions, if anybody else has any other questions, please go ahead and send those over in the questions box in the chat box. The first one we had here, what type of files are supported by clash detection?
Clash detection is Revit, the 3D file. So, we saw, actually I didn't show it, did I? I had it queued up, but I never showed it. So Revit files, Civil 3D models, Plant 3D, and there are a handful of IFC files. Very specific IFC files. I forget exactly. I think they had been created from Tekla or a couple of other programs. We could certainly get that information out there. I know there's an AKN on that. But yeah, definitely the Revit models and any of those verticals such as Plant 3D, Civil 3D. And this is taking a bit to load here. Let's chalk it up to my slow Wi-Fi right now. Anyways, while this is spinning up, any other questions? What else we got?
One other one I had here, if I invite someone to my project, do they need to have their own license?
Yeah, so that is part of the bring your own license. I believe that was, I thought I saw it. Yeah. Yeah, so bring your own subscription to the construction cloud. Certainly, if you have an abundance of licenses, you can dole them out to other users, other companies. It's essentially assigning them access or an entitlement to that license. Just, another way of doing it, but primarily it is bring your own subscription. So if they have a subscription, they can just tap right into that information, right into that project, provided you give them the appropriate access to it.
Okay, great. And we can definitely, I think the best thing may actually be to put these links in the YouTube video that we're going to be posting up. So that'll be perfect, so that everybody can get to those.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be a great way to do that. So here's that, real quick, here's that clash that was spinning up before between the Civil 3D model and a Revit file. So we can see we've got some structures in the Civil 3D file, as well as a surface that most likely is not a clash because the structure is going to hit the surface anyway. So that one of those situations where you would just say, no, it's not an issue. It's valid penetration, valid clash, what have you, and just clear that right out of the list so it doesn't show up again. But yeah, it's like I said, Civil 3D, Plant 3D, Revit models, clash them all against each other. There are also a handful of IFC files. We'll get the AKN for that and post that along with the other links on the YouTube channel.
Okay, great. I had one other question come in here, but I think you just answered it. Does Revit support clash detection from IFC files imported from other software? But I think you just answered that one.
Yeah, like I said, there are a few IFC file types, and if I recall correctly, they had to be created from a specific product. I do remember Tekla being on there as one of those products. I don't recall right off the top of my head what the others were.
Okay, perfect. I think that's it for questions for now. If you want, go ahead and jump back to that slideshow. I'm not sure if we had a closing slide there.
The Q&A, and then, yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, Matt, first for being here with us today, and thank
My
you
pleasure.
to everybody that was able to join us today for our Autodesk BIM Collaborate Pro webinar. As I mentioned before, if you guys have any questions, concerns, anything like that, please go ahead and give us a call at 305-445-6480 and email us at info@ddscad.com. I'd also like to mention that we do have our blog on our website that we're constantly building out, adding various tips and tricks, topics, past webinars, things like that. So come check that out on our website. That's a great resource to go ahead and look for information, questions, things like that that you may have. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and close it off then. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.